Evidence secured at marker 4. Advise command we are holding the scene.
Copy that. It's getting heavier out here.
He was probably an inmate at a penitentiary, and let's not forget, they have a lot of time to kill.
He hid his identity completely, avoiding some cheap ski mask grabbed at the final second. He chose a purpose-built balaclava constructed to expose absolutely nothing. He concealed his hair. He shielded his hands using tactical gloves, the exact style that abandons no fingerprints, drops 0 fibers, and feeds DNA laboratories absolutely nothing. He pulled a hood up tight, adding a heavy jacket over it. He strapped on an Ozark Trail backpack, Walmart's private brand, literally the most untraceable, generic bag sold across this nation. He secured a holster in a highly deliberate position. He carried a firearm. He tracked the exact location of the doorbell camera. He approached that lens without panic or furtive movements, walking with what former FBI special agent Brianna Fox called a casual saunter, like he owned the place. He reached up and blocked the lens. He thought he controlled everything, but he completely forgot his right wrist. On February 10th, 2026, exactly 9 days after Nancy Guthrie vanished, the FBI released doorbell camera video capturing her abduction. Those exact images were never supposed to exist. Nancy's Nest doorbell camera fell completely offline at 1:47 in the morning on February 1st. Someone severed the system. Whatever that lens recorded during those dark hours vanished forever, or so this attacker assumed. FBI agents collaborated directly alongside Google, the corporation owning Nest Camera Company, extracting residual video data hidden inside Google's back-end servers. What agents retrieved entirely shattered the investigation. That recovered footage reveals a masked suspect advancing toward Nancy Guthrie's front door. He wears a tight balaclava, dark gloves, and a layered jacket. He carries a cheap backpack. He wields a gun. Then he reaches high, attempting to obstruct the camera lens, using his gloved hand initially, before switching to something else, something organic that federal investigators later pushed through advanced forensic analysis. The FBI officially labeled the figure inside that video as the active suspect in Nancy Guthrie's kidnapping, male, about 5'9" to 5'10", average build, right-handed, and carrying, beyond everything else, the single most identifiable mark a human being possesses. He left his true identity permanently written in dark ink across the inside of his right wrist. Jim Clemente caught it. Clemente spent decades working as an elite FBI profiler. He operated as a supervisory special agent, constructing psychological profiles on the most uniquely complex criminal cases throughout American history. When that doorbell video dropped on February 10th, Clemente analyzed every frame. He took his findings straight to Fox News Digital. He appeared on News Nation's Brian Anton Investigates, revealing a detail that demands our absolute, undivided attention.
He revealed that, I believe, he has a tattoo on the underside of his right wrist.
Those remain massive mistakes for someone attempting this. He revealed a tremendous amount, Clemente explicitly told Fox News Digital. Ultimately, he is no professional. Consider the gravity behind that exact assessment. Here stands a man who masked his face, his hair, his hands, and his silhouette, striking violently under utter darkness, who forced the camera offline entirely, selecting a completely untraceable bag, a highly unremarkable jacket, and a concealed carry holster, preparing thoroughly by almost every single visible metric. Yet, one of the most highly experienced FBI profilers across this country studies that video and declares, not a professional.
His eyes and his eyebrows and his eyelashes and some of his mustache hair was all exposed. That could have fallen out.
Because a true professional never merely covers their face, a professional completely erases their biography. But this individual's raw biography, the highly specific story permanently inked into his skin, flashed on camera for the entire world to witness. Clemente publicly identified the fatal error. He pointed straight at the suspect's right wrist inside that video, telling Fox News Digital, that tattoo, if it is a tattoo, will be able to help them rule in and rule out people. Certainly, it will help the public. Rule in and rule out. That represents pure investigative language, not just dramatic television commentary. Clemente describes a vital operational function. The tattoo acts as a literal filter, a brutal narrowing tool, shrinking a massive suspect pool from millions of people down to thousands, dropping thousands to hundreds, eventually isolating hundreds down to one. He further noted during Brian Anton Investigates that this suspect likely falls inside his 30s or 40s.
Generally, the way he moved, he didn't seem like he was in his 50s or 60s, but he was probably in his 30s or 40s.
Because this guy lacked professional discipline, he definitely exhibited glaring pre- and post-offense behaviors that people surrounding him can visibly spot. Everyone knowing this man should watch for sudden stress, unexplained absences, erratic behavioral changes, or drastic shifts in personal appearance. Clemente essentially described a human being currently running away, just not fast enough. Let's construct this profile completely. Federal agents are simultaneously tracing every single piece of clothing shown in that footage, and the wrist tattoo forms only one crucial thread investigators currently pull. The FBI formally stated the suspect is male, roughly 5'9" to 5'10", with an average build. Experts pulled those exact measurements from forensic reconstruction, using the known dimensions of Nancy's porch and front doorway as reference points. The backpack. CNN's deep analysis firmly identified the bag as an Ozark Trail hiker pack, a 25-liter pack belonging to Walmart's private outdoor brand. Sold exclusively through Walmart locations, meaning every single Walmart running surveillance cameras within a reasonable geographic radius of Tucson instantly becomes a potential purchase data goldmine. They need every employee who might recall that transaction. The breakthrough wasn't the firearm, the holster, or the swiped loyalty cards. Detectives stated they are actively analyzing the video to determine the exact firearm model and specific holster type. Multiple experts flagged the rig's placement as highly irregular. That weird positioning? It serves as a behavioral signature. Search teams recovered one solitary black glove, dumped roughly 2 miles away from NY's private residence. Crime lab technicians ran the DNA through CODIS, the FBI database holding nearly 27 million offender profiles. 0 matches. Genetic material pulled from inside NY's house completely failed to trigger a system alert. This silence speaks volumes. The suspect either possesses a sealed record, offended elsewhere, or operates entirely off the CODIS network radar. Or this specific case represents his maiden encounter with United States law enforcement. The videotape answered that, exposing a detail police hid, but CNN journalists eventually uncovered. The FBI photos display the intruder visiting Nancy Guthrie's property on 2 distinct occasions. He carried the pack and rig once. The second trip, nothing. Different dates featured the identical masked prowler. This showed zero opportunism. This meant active surveillance. He studied his prey. During those calculated weeks of watching, he accidentally surrendered 1 inch of his identity. What did it reveal? Before decoding that answer, we require a critical legal disclaimer. Authorities have completely refrained from naming, identifying, or charging anyone regarding Nancy Guthrie's tragic disappearance. You will hear named professional opinions and open-source intelligence, absolutely not formal police conclusions. We refuse to name or guess at specific people. We simply document exactly what specialists state on the record. Darren Rosa joined when the crime stories with Nancy Grace crew scrutinized the footage. They needed a 30-year ink-reading veteran on the case. His real name is Darren Rosa, famously called the Dude. He runs New York City's Rising Dragon Tattoos. Forget police analysts. This master craftsman spent 3 decades decoding exactly how ink location, artistic style, and needle execution broadcast a person's entire life story. Investigators handed Rosa an aggressively magnified screen grab, pulled from the FBI doorbell video, just a fragment. A tiny sliver of ink peeked out between the suspect's lower sleeve and the top of his glove. Only the right wrist showed. From that tiny scrap, Rosa extracted several highly specific technical readouts. What did he see? His first determination? The aesthetic is black and gray. Inside the ink industry, black and gray means far more than basic color. It represents a distinct genre carrying unique origins and regional dominance. Speaking straight to Nancy Grace, Rosa confirmed this black and gray technique runs incredibly prevalent. It thoroughly dominates the southwestern regions. More specifically, it rules the southwestern gang populations entirely. Cartels strongly favor black and gray. He subsequently explained why this aesthetic controls that underworld.
Black and gray. If we're talking about a tattoo that was done in a penitentiary, these inmates don't have access.
Rosa clarified that locked-up inmates completely lack access to colored pigments. This exact aesthetic has consistently decorated organized street gangs for decades. They deliberately elevated this technique, turning these incredibly subtle ink gradations into true fine art. It officially operates as a visual trademark for individuals climbing the higher criminal ranks. Premium black and gray tattooing transcends simple aesthetics. It functions as hard status documentation. It provides a permanent visual record verifying rank within a strict hierarchy. That refined technique and subtle shading perfectly signal prestige and high-level craftsmanship inside this world. Rosa is absolutely not describing amateur weekend parlor ink. He outlines permanent work broadcasting exactly where this individual operated and what specific organization they represent. He pushed further, geographically profiling the target. This specific needlework perfectly survives intense sun exposure. Rosa noted these guys operate under the sun across southwestern states, specifically Arizona, New Mexico, Southern California, and Texas. He effectively dropped this suspect's ink culture squarely into the exact geographic zone where Nancy Guthrie resides.
Sun exposure. Because like I said, this style, fine line, typically single needle work.
Here is the twist. Rosa provided an observation turning this basic analysis into an immediate investigative crisis for the suspect. If we only catch this tiny glimpse, Rosa warned Nancy Grace, it almost certainly connects to a larger piece covering his whole arm, a total sleeve. Not a hidden ankle design, not an isolated forearm piece. An arm sleeve, ink pushing from the bare wrist, crossing the elbow straight toward the shoulder. That expert deduction triggered one immediate, glaring implication that Rosa stated without hesitation. The suspect undeniably possesses heavily tattooed hands. He wears this hooded balaclava. He most likely hides tattoos on his neck or right under his eye, because that fits their standard protocol.
Hands. He's wearing this hooded mask, this balaclava. Most likely he's got tattoos on his neck and maybe even something under his eye.
Rewind the tape. This suspect layered on a thick balaclava during a warm Tucson, Arizona, morning on February 1st. He also strapped on heavy tactical gloves. He kept a heavy jacket zipped with the hood tight. Experts universally agree this gear concealed his identity. That much is certain. However, Rosa presents a far sharper theory here. This man was not merely masking his face from view. He concealed a literal map beneath that fabric. Neck tattoos, possible facial ink, perhaps markings near his eyes. He almost certainly hid ink under those thick hand coverings. This suspect did not leave his home on February 1st looking like an average citizen. He stepped outside entirely disguised, because without that specific dark mask, without those heavy tactical gloves, he would stand instantly and undeniably recognizable to absolutely anyone who had ever laid eyes on him. A beard gets shaved off. A haircut gets altered easily. Yet extensive black and gray prison-style ink spanning across the hands, arms, neck, and face never simply gets shoved inside a closet, never vanishes at a station, and never disappears underneath a simple cap. Rosa validated this exact profile. We are actively hunting a heavily inked suspect, and this person most certainly carries prominent neck markings. Multiple investigation angles exist. This ink represents a single clue, but detectives are pulling another string. We must examine the full forensic landscape, because exactly how these disparate clues collide becomes the story. Sheriff Chris Nanos explicitly informed NBC's Today Show that his detectives are absolutely closer to naming someone. He stated this directly while network cameras rolled as an official departmental update. This was no empty public comfort. This involves a top cop broadcasting nationwide. That internal momentum has shifted. The reality detectives currently view drastically differs from public knowledge. This brings us to DNA. Forensics extracted genetic material directly from inside Nancy's residence. They also secured a profile from a glove discarded 2 miles away. Technicians ran both collected samples through CODIS, the National FBI Registry, holding roughly 27 million profiles of convicted felons. Neither swab triggered an alert. Striking out on a federal database proves maddening, but C.C. Moore, head genetic genealogist at Parabon Nanolabs, gave Fox News Digital this quote: "If this genetic evidence allows for investigative genealogy testing, finding the exact person who left it behind becomes merely a matter of time." Investigative genetic genealogy remains the exact scientific method that finally captured Golden State Killer Joseph James DeAngelo after 40 long years. This identical approach pinpointed Brian Kohberger during the University of Idaho homicides. The process functions by constructing an extensive family tree around unidentified genetics, locating distant cousins who willingly uploaded their genetic markers to consumer sites like GE Deadmatch or Ancestry, and systematically working backward through Ancestry until isolating the specific individual present at the crime scene. The work feels agonizing. The wait takes months, yet the software has evolved rapidly. Genealogist Barbara Ray Venter, who actively solved the DeAngelo puzzle, noted regarding these modern upgrades, "We possess incredibly advanced digital systems for this work today. However, the genetic evidence in this specific tragedy carries serious complications." Sheriff Nanos openly verified the swab secured inside the residence shows a mixture, likely containing genetics from multiple individuals, and technicians documented profound difficulty isolating the distinct profiles. He spoke bluntly. These specific swabs present serious obstacles. Yet he noted this detail. Forensics teams understand how rapidly this extraction technology currently advances. Experts believe these particular scientific hurdles will clear up within mere weeks or months. Detectives actively pull this genetic string today. It stays unresolved. It remains wide open. But look at the timeline. Detectives continue silently and relentlessly dissecting one other element: the exact chronology hours before Nancy vanished. Here are the verified facts. Nancy Guthrie was alive on the night of January 31st. Sheriff Nanos completely exonerated the immediate family from suspicion. Savannah Guthrie, her brother, her sister, and their spouses remain clear. The sheriff made this absolute. Yet analyzing those precious hours right before she vanished, tracking her companions, identifying her driver, and pinpointing everyone near that residence, still drives a massive portion of this ongoing police inquiry. Ashley Banfield's reporting on Drop Dead Serious officially identified Tommaso Cioni, the brother-in-law of Savannah Guthrie, as the precise person who drove Nancy home that night. Police never named Cioni a suspect. He faces 0 charges. Detectives never arrested him. We only document details strictly published by verified investigative journalists, without adding a single assumption. What remains absolutely factual is this point: the mystery of who saw Nancy last, who tracked her habits, and who realized that residents stood vulnerable during those dark morning hours. That massive question remains completely unanswered. Digital forensics specialist Heather Barnhart, who consulted during the Brian Kohberger manhunt and works at the Sands Institute in Celebrite, provided NBC News a profound quote that heavily impacts this exact active criminal investigation. "Suspects ignore how deeply data bleeds across electronics," she explained. "The very complexity frustrating police investigations also makes it absolutely impossible for killers to ever clean up. Your smartphone acts as an invisible witness to your reality. It tracks every move you make. Whoever took Nancy Guthrie almost certainly carried a smartphone. A digital map exposes our suspect. That phone hit Catalina Foothills Towers in Tucson before February 1st, returning multiple times if surveillance tracking holds. It pinged towers, locked down location coordinates, grabbed purchase logs, scraped web searches, and trapped communication records, drawing a direct line from this target to that house. The Crime Stories with Nancy Grace broadcast verified detectives currently demand data from Google and Apple. But what can the Bureau actually do with this ink? We require absolute precision here, because competing media continually leaves this thread incomplete. What do they know? American police infrastructure operates extensive skin registries alongside identification databases. The Next Generation Identification System from the Bureau, known as NGI, holds beyond standard fingerprints and facial scans. It catalogs tattoos. Every arrest, booking, photographing visible skin art feeds right into that system. The National Gang Center, run by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, catalogs gang ink and specific visual iconography associated with known criminal organizations, mapping exact bodily placement, deep symbolic meaning, and widespread geographic dominance. Individual states across Arizona, Texas, California, and New Mexico independently command localized gang intelligence databases. These regional networks talk directly to federal servers. Analysts actively search them. Algorithms cross-reference them. How does ink hunting work? Darren Rosa isolated the aesthetic directly as black and gray. He locked geography to the southwestern United States, noting gang and cartel prevalence. He flagged the expected scale as a full sleeve, with neck and face work. Detectives deploy every single metric as a strict filter inside their database hunt. That black and gray shade isolates the art style. Southwestern gang or cartel presence pinpoints the organizational link. Full sleeve placement tightens the physical profile. When the ink holds highly recognizable gang imagery, visual language directly matching established syndicate codes, the results plummet from millions down to thousands. Thousands drop to hundreds, funneling toward one particular name on a specific booking document. Can they pull that name? The answer sits in process. Former Bureau agent Jonathan Gilliam joined the Megyn Kelly program on March 18th. Exactly one day before this video dropped, he built the operational argument himself. He voiced calculated doubt regarding exact artistic readings, emphasizing heavy sleeve work runs rampant across Arizona. He correctly argues an isolated fragment fails as definitive proof. Yet Gilliam then dropped this fact. Even tiny fragments matter. Whenever a tattooed suspect faces arrest, authorities catalog that ink. A database likely holds that exact visual feature, waiting for someone to just connect the dots. Connect the dots. Detectives are doing exactly that. But where else? We have one major investigative lead almost entirely ignored by mainstream media outlets. Nancy Grace spotlighted this exact thread heavily during recent Crime Stories audio broadcasts. Someone defaced a utility box near the residence of Nancy Guthrie. Detectives deployed tag experts alongside graffiti and ink analysts for immediate inspection. This exact intersection between street tagging and body art happens by design. Deep inside syndicate and cartel operations, symbols bleeding into human flesh also dominate walls. That exact visual dialect Darren Rosa spotted on the attacker's wrist frequently surfaces in street paint marking territory and affiliation. Tag experts train relentlessly to decode this dialect. They expose syndicate hierarchies and geographic turf, hidden within what civilians dismiss as random vandalism. Detectives imported elite professionals equipped to interpret gang and cartel imagery. This marks a deliberate tactical maneuver, aligning perfectly with the ink profile Darren Rosa outlined. Forget parallel tracks. These separate leads aggressively crash into one terrifying question. Who is this syndicate, and what does it mean for where Nancy Guthrie is right now? Let us bring everything back to today's reality. DNA flows through genealogy pipelines. Detectives track retail origins on garments and backpacks. Gait analysis strips down video footage. Digital warrants hammer Google and Apple. Ink queries scorch through federal and state gang archives, while tag experts break down the defaced property outside the home of Nancy. Cece Moore serves as chief genetic genealogist for Parabon Nanolabs. Her agency routinely breaks thousands of cold cases. She handed Fox News Digital a quote, demanding respect as a statement of professional certainty, not false hope. Leveraging the power of investigative genetic genealogy, it is purely a matter of time until authorities expose who owns that DNA. Detectives will relentlessly pursue those leads, ultimately delivering long-awaited answers to the family of Nancy. A matter of time, not blind hope, and not dependent on luck. This represents cold, calculated investigative process. With enough biological material, genetic tracing simply does not fail. Distant database hits only drag out the ticking clock. Technology hunts faster than any fleeing suspect runs. But what actually breaks them? The massive cash. The FBI stakes a $100,000 reward for intel locating Nancy Guthrie, or driving the arrest and absolute conviction of those responsible. The Guthrie family guarantees an additional $1 million personal bounty. $1 million buys a single tip line call. Loyalty expires. Silence demands hefty payment. This suspect operates inside a specific world. Rosa used behavioral analysis to pin him there, a localized community functioning entirely on a fragile economy of trust. $1 million obliterates that street trust instantly. So, who betrays him first? We jump back to the absolute beginning. Watch the beginning. He masked his face, hid his hair, wrapped his hands, concealed his neck. Preparation ruled. He stalked that house, returning with perfect camera awareness. Reaching through pitch darkness, he blinded the lens. The intruder calculated every single inch that might betray his identity, completely missing one solitary spot. That exposed inch sits inside federal databases today. A 30-year tattoo industry veteran dissected the ink, locking down a highly specific artistic style, an exact subculture, and a precise geographical slice of this country. A highly experienced, retired FBI profiler, currently working across public media networks, officially flagged this critical visual anomaly. Investigators actively cross-reference the mark against gang tattoo registries and arrest records. They compare it directly against imagery pulled from the vandalized utility box near NY's home. Someone recognizing that ink stares at it right now, today. How do these relentless manhunts inevitably end? They never end with sudden, cinematic breakthroughs. Forget about investigators dragging a forced confession from a suspect sweating inside a bleak gray room. True resolution strikes when mounting pressure finally breaks an associate, an individual inside the suspect's circle seeing him without gloves and without a mask, a confidant realizing that staying perfectly silent carries a heavier price than talking. 47 days pass, and experts decode the tattoo. The DNA enters the genealogy pipeline. Retail traces run continuously. The phantom remains out there. Do you think he sleeps? Somewhere nearby, he alters his appearance, nervously checking his shoulder every time he steps outside. Each passing day offers another chance for someone holding deep secrets to decide they are completely done protecting his skin. He exposed it on camera. The FBI holds it. Databases store it. Experts analyze it. The public watches. That detail dictates everything. Got any information about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance? Dial 1-800, call FBI. That spells 1-800-2255-324. You can file digital tips at tips.fbi.gov.jv or dial Puma County Sheriff's Department directly at 520-351-490. The FBI promises a $100,000 reward. The Guthrie family stakes $1 million. Bring her home.